Welcome to today's Academic Advisor Forum, Keys to Advising Language Students. My name is Ross Hawkins. I'm the Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center. Today's Academic Advisor Forum will be recorded and posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel within 1 to 2 weeks. If this information is beneficial and you know someone who could benefit from today's advisor forum, please let them know that they can check it out at a later time on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel. I did want to let everyone know that our next academic advisor forum is on Monday, October 21st from 12 to 1, also on Zoom. This advisor forum will kick off National Transfer Student Week celebration. So it will be a Transfer Advising Essentials, What's New Academic Advisor Forum. Again, that one will also be recorded and posted on the YouTube channel. If you wish to receive credit for today's advisor forum, please enter your name and your department in the chat feature so we can get that recorded. I am happy today to introduce Dr. Steve Berkwitz, who is going to kick off our advisor forum. Again, Keys to Advising Language Students. Dr. Berkwitz.
Thank you, Ross, and thank everyone for being here. I'm actually just going to kick us off and say a few things about the Department of Languages, Cultures, and Religions, and why it's good for students to learn languages. But we will be relying on my colleagues, Tonia, Tinsley, and Melanie, Kleeschulte, to kind of go into the details about sort of the nuts and bolts about advising students with regard to studying world languages. And we appreciate everyone's attendance and appreciate the Academic Advising and Transfer Center for allowing us to speak to you. So at this point, I might ask, I guess we will take a look at the screen. Yes, thanks. So this is our, again, we teach a lot of different world languages here at Missouri State. An overview sort of today of what we'll be discussing, why study the languages, that's my part here. We'll go into the different languages that are offered. We'll talk about the undergraduate major, which is a Bachelor of Science in Modern Languages. We'll talk about the different minors, the grad programs and certificates. There'll be some discussion also on placement tests and some other nuts and bolts that people might find useful, as well as some reference to education abroad. But first off, we should probably let you know where we are. With the merger of World Languages and Cultures and Religious Studies, we have 2 different locations. In some ways, if you count Foreign Language Institute, we have 3 different locations. The main department office is in Strong Hall on the 2nd floor. But a lot of the language courses and the language faculty offices are located in Sisliff Hall. This can be a little confusing, but we're trying to make the best of it as possible. But yeah, if you were to send a student to the Department of Languages, Cultures, and Religions, it would probably be best to send them to Strong Hall. But a lot of the language instructors, the faculty who teach languages, are located in Sisliff. And then the Foreign Language Institute, again, is located in the Jim Morris Center downtown. And there will be some language courses offered there to students. So why should people study a language? This is something that we think is kind of important to stress. It's not always the case that people in kind of college age students recognize just how valuable languages are. It's becoming something that's less commonly studied in high schools as well, which is in many ways very unfortunate. But there are good reasons to study a language. Among the top is that it improves a person's career prospects. When you can speak for a world language, it's a way to distinguish yourself from other people, other potential candidates for a job. It's a way to be able to engage people from other cultures, both in North America and around the world. One can build deeper connections with people because people view you differently and more positively when you can speak their language. And this is something that I think all of us have experienced if we know more than one language. It's a way to enhance systematic thinking. There's studies that show that studying other languages help you to approach problems more logically and more methodically. There's a certain amount of evidence that shows it improves brain functioning as well. So this might be something for all of us to do, right? It helps to develop a better memory, problem solving, be able to concentrate more. And it's said to reduce the chances of cognitive decline as we get older. There's a certain amount of cultural appreciation because when you learn study a language, you're actually studying another culture. It helps when you travel to know another language. You have more meaningful travel experiences and you can kind of relate to local people better when you can say something in their own language. There are certain feelings of accomplishment. Again, if not many of their peers are students' peers are studying a language and they are learning it, they can communicate in that. That's a significant accomplishment for them. There's a way to appreciate human diversity. You learn about the differences as well as the similarities that we share. For people interested in graduate study, it's very useful and sometimes essential to know more than just English. You can prepare for graduate studies, learn to access research that has been written in other languages, and there are certain doctoral programs in particular where knowledge of more than just English is required. And lastly, it also helps people to understand their own language of English better. For example, I can say I started to understand English grammar after I started studying different languages. So there's lots of good reasons on why to study a language, and we would hope that people convey that to students because it is to their benefit. But now I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues to explain how the languages work here at MSU.
Hey, my name is Melanie, and I am an instructor of Spanish in the Department of Languages, Cultures, and Religions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the languages that we offer, how we place students, and just give you an idea of what you can tell students if they come to you and just say, hey, I've learned language and I'm interested. So we offer many languages here at Missouri State, and we're going to run through what those are briefly, and then later on we'll get into some detail about how students can actually study these languages, how far they can go in their studies. So for the Bachelor of Science in Modern Language, the major, we have 5 language options for them. That's Chinese, French, German, Japanese, and Spanish. Students will declare a Bachelor of Science in Modern Language, not the language itself. So that is important to remember and to advise students in, and to recognize when students are sharing with you that they want to study language towards a major. We have these languages offered in the minors. We have minors in Ancient Greek, French, German, Japanese, Korean, Latin, and Spanish. Korean is our newest minor, so we're very excited about that. Again, these languages can be studied they can be studied for exploration purposes, but also a minor. And then after the minor, we have several certificates as well in some of our languages, and some are in the works for other languages. I'm not going to go through them all here, but they are a varying degree of credit hours towards the certificates. So it's not just languages, it's just not minors and majors, but also certificates. Currently in the languages, we have Spanish, French, and classical languages options. At the Foreign Language Institute, so Dr. Berkwitz explained a little bit about the Foreign Language Institute that's downtown. That is where we offer more languages, and Tonia's going to explain a little bit about what that looks like.
Yes, hello, everybody. My name's Tonia Tinsley. So I am the assistant department head, but I'm also the person, if you have an education student, they would want to see me. But we have a contact slide at the very end of this. So it's nice to see everybody today. The Foreign Language Institute is a joint venture between LCR and international programs, but it is also set up on a consortium model. So if your students say that they're going to take, let's see, Italian, the class, for scheduling purposes, you need to be aware that the class is more than likely going to be in the afternoon, later in the afternoon, and it will be downtown. So they would need to build time into their schedules to get there. When it's a consortium model, it means that they're going to be in the class potentially with students from OTC, SBU, Evangel, and the other member institutions. Typically, if the language is offered at the Foreign Language Institute, the student can count on between 6 and 12 hours of the languages. We had a great success with Korean because it used to be only at the Foreign Language Institute, but student interest in that language has grown quite a bit. And now we have a minor, and we've added enough courses to be able to offer the Korean minor. So that's the Foreign Language Institute. And just remember, it's downtown, so they have to have time to get there.
Thanks, Tonia. So I'm going to talk a little bit about placement. One of the things that we get excited about and are actually very proud of is our placement policy here at Missouri State. We want to make sure we are recognizing students' prior knowledge and learning in language so that when they come to us, they feel empowered to keep going and they feel like they're going to be rewarded for what they're already able to do in a language. So we have two primary kinds of students typically who come to us with prior language knowledge or experience. The first is the student who either has taken language in high school but they were at a school that all they could do was really take the language. Their school did not necessarily offer college level credit or recognition of language ability, but they took the classes in high school. Or a student who comes and says that they lived in another country for several years, so they speak the language, or they grew up in a home in their family that speaks another language, so therefore they speak the language. These students we encourage to take our placement test, and it is online. Here at the link, you can see the link, and it's at no cost to them, and they receive immediate placement into a course based on their score. The placement test is not offered in all languages. So if you have a student who comes to you, for example, Italian or Portuguese or something like that, and they want to take classes, they would need to contact us directly at the email lcr@missouri-state.edu for that kind of placement, because the placement test is only offered in certain languages and not all. But we do want to work with every student who has language ability to see and explore and figure out what can we do with your language so that that is not something that's a lost skill for them, but it's something that they can capitalize on. For students who take the placement test, if they take the course into which they place and they earn a B or higher, then at the end of that course, they can request retroactive credit for the levels of that language that are below. So for example, if a student tests into a 201 level course and gets a B or higher, they can request the credit for 101 and 102, and we will award that to them based on earning a B or higher in the course into which they placed. So that's important to note, that if they place into a course, take the course and earn a B or higher, we will recognize their ability from the 101 or the 102 lower levels. The placement policies are listed on our website, so you can always refer to the website if you have questions about that. The second kind of student that we often see is the student who comes to us with high school study and credit or recognition earned while in high school. So college level credit or IB credit or AP credit. And this is important because we have a lot of students coming in with this kind of language credit. Either they took dual credit at their high school through a partner university, and so those come in on their transcripts. If a student comes in with dual credit, then they just automatically are placed into the next course in the sequence. IB and AP credit, we accept those, and those will also come in typically on a transcript. And so there's an equivalency that we will award them the credit for the courses taken if they take the AP exam and the IB exam and earn certain scores. You will often hear, especially in Missouri now, more students talking about the Seal of Biliteracy. And the Seal of Biliteracy is a national initiative for languages to award students with recognition of ability in a language. And so many states are adopting it, and many school districts are adopting it. And so if you have a student who comes to you that says, I have the Seal of Biliteracy in French, let's say, that's great. That means that they can do something in French, and they know quite a bit of French, but just telling you that they have a Seal of Biliteracy in French doesn't give them credit here. It's important to note that they must submit to our offices their score reports from these tests that they will have taken to earn that Seal of Biliteracy. They get a certificate that says, congratulations, Seal of Biliteracy certificate. But in order to have gotten that certificate, they had to have taken some tests that are national tests that are administered at each of the schools who participate in this, in each of the districts. And we need those test scores in order to place them into a course so that they can continue on and receive the credit, the language credit. So that's really important because we have more and more students saying, I have the seal, and we want to congratulate them for the seal, but we need more than just them saying that or showing a certificate. So that is something to keep in mind. If you have any questions about the placement, we're really flexible with placement because, like I said, we want to honor and recognize students who come in with language abilities. But if you have any questions about that, or something is seems like an exceptional situation, then always feel free to email lcr@missouristate.edu, and you'll get connected with the right person who can help you and your student understand what their options are. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk to you about is what we call the language path. And this is a visual that hopefully can kind of break things down for you as advisors, and then for students who come in interested in studying languages. We have three kind of levels. We have what's called the Explorer level, which is for anyone who has not had prior language study or experience, but is interested in learning any language, any of the languages that we offer. They all start at the 101 level. No placement necessary, just start at the 101 level. And we offer the Explorer classes in 101 and 102 for the languages. The next level would be the minor. Courses start counting toward the minor and the BSML at 201, at the 201 level. So if a student is interested in minoring, then they need to at least get to that 201 level and then start counting the number of credits and courses that they will need for the minor. The minor consists of 18 credits, so 6 classes starting at the 201 level, and then they would do 201, 202, a conversation class, a composition class, and then 2 elective classes of their choice. Beyond that, so 5 classes or 15 credits beyond the minor is the major. And so if they want to continue on, then they would choose 5 elective courses beyond the ones that they've done for their minor. Mixed into all of that are the certificate options. We offer language communication certificates, which do count those Explorer level 101 and 102 courses into the certificate requirements. So a certificate would be 15 hours, starting 14 or 15 hours, typically 15, starting at the 101 level and going through the conversation course or equivalent for the classical languages. Beyond that, there are French and Spanish certificates, and other languages are in the works that are more specialized and focused in terms of area of interest. So Hispanic studies, French translation, the arts in Francophone, I don't remember the title exactly, so. Tanya,
Arts and Literatures of the Francophone World is.
Arts and Literatures of the Francophone World. So as a student has interests specifically in one of those, in one of the areas, there's a certificate, or certificates that address those interest areas. And those vary in number of credits. So that's not posted here, but you can ask us or check it out online, and it's all very clearly explained online. All of the Explorer courses do count towards Core 42. So if students come in with Core 42 in those languages, they would fall into what we would call the Explorer area. And if they're a Core 42 Gen Ed student, then those count in Core 42. Okay, Tonia is going to now talk about some of the details of the major.
Okay, so one of the reasons why we put the next two slides in here is because typically we see second majors quite frequently, and they go ahead and get cleared to register through their first major faculty advisor. And sometimes this causes some issues for them because there are the 33-hour emphasis that you see in the middle of the screen. Those courses have to be loaded manually onto their degree audit for the second major. The system banner pulls the language coded courses for the minors and the certificates because those are defined. But these are our major degree programs, the BSML versions. Those 33 credits we have to tell the computer to recognize them. And we want the students to be working from degree audits that are accurate. So it's really, really important that if you have a first major and you notice in an advising appointment that they've declared a second major in a language, but they've got like only 35% of their degree program done, you need to make sure, please, 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 please have them email lcr@missouristate.edu to be assigned an official advisor in our department, because otherwise they'll never be able to use their degree audit in the second major accurately. So the first one, and this is the one that's most common in the event of second majors, is the non-comprehensive, because the second major replaces the minor. So you've got two bookend courses, LCR 100, which is in the Gen Ed, and then there's a capstone course. And then there are 11, as Melanie said earlier on her chart, there are 11 3-credit-hour courses that the students need to take in their language of emphasis. When they contact the registrar's office or when they want to talk with you about it, it's really important too. It's a Bachelor of Science in Modern Language. We used to have a Bachelor of Science in French, but we combined them all under this heading. So it's a Bachelor of Science in Modern Language. The next option, right, just like every other degree program, we have the comprehensive version of our degrees. Now they'll do the same 2 bookend courses and then the same 33-hour emphasis, right? And then we have 4 predefined options. We have 2 languages. This means that your student is going to be taking their language of emphasis and another one besides English. Okay, and then the number of credit hours that they have to take is in parentheses. There's a translation option. All of the comprehensive options are available in Chinese, French, German, Japanese, and Spanish, right? So they can do the 2 languages. Now, in this one, with the 24 credits, they could do one of the less commonly taught languages. But again, these are all electives that we would have to load manually into their degree audit. Now, the applied business and the teacher certification, those also have courses outside of our department that the students need to take. For the teacher certification, it meets Missouri requirements for the teaching certificate, K through 12. So they will have quite a few classes in the College of Ed. Okay, and in the applied business, it requires 12 elective hours that get approved by the Dean of the College of Business. So there are some extra steps that the students have to take with these. Okay, and then there are also other people on campus who need languages in your advising sessions with them, right? The Bachelor of Arts degree, All Bachelor of Arts degrees carry a language requirement. It's 12 hours of one language, except for global studies, which is at 15. These are university requirements. So if there are questions about exceptions toward these requirements, Dr. Kelly Wood would be the person who would need to be contacted about those. Obviously, we might be involved and consulted, but it's a language requirement, or sorry, it's a university requirement. And the same thing can be said about the residency requirements in, that's a university requirement for certificates, minors, and degree programs. There are also the international business majors where they also have 12 credit hours of one language, but they have an additional 3 credit hours related to an education abroad experience. And then the music performance majors, I believe that they are required to take 6 hours, but they must choose from French, Italian, or German. And we'll move on to the next one. And then we also have graduate programs, because some of you have graduate advisees. So we have a Master of Applied Second Language Acquisition in the department. It's a joint degree program offered by LCR and English. It consists of a second language acquisition core, and then we have tracks in French, Spanish, and TESOL. We also have graduate certificates in French, Spanish, and foreign language pedagogy. Please, it's called a foreign language teaching certificate, but it does not certify people to teach K through 12. If they want to teach in a school in the United States, they need to talk with me about teacher certification. Okay, we'll move on. And we're also very fortunate in our new department. I get really excited about this. I am the chair of this committee, so I'm not biased in any way. We try to equally distribute the funds that we have, right? But we have foundation scholarships in our department from our lovely donors, but we also have departmental financial awards for all of our programs. So this means that we have departmental awards possible for Seal of Biliteracy students, dual credit students, undergraduate and graduate certificate students, minor students, students who take languages at the FLI, and undergraduate and graduate majors. Now, the reason that this slide is here is because all of the FAFSA stuff notwithstanding, the foundation scholarships have one application form, and you guys know usual deadline, not last year, but usual deadline is March 1st, right? But for the departmental awards, there's a different deadline. It's typically April 15th, and there is a separate application form because these departmental awards are managed and funded by our department. So they do not go through the foundation. There's a link there that will take your students to the departmental information, and the links are live right now for the LCR departmental awards. They can go and look at the form and apply. Now, I spent a lot of time working on education abroad. So I'd like to give a shout out to Amy Huff and Morgan Marler, because we work a lot together on these things. Thank you very much, ladies. So there are 2 types of education abroad that we have in our department, right? We have faculty-led programs, and you see the list of possible destinations. Those are typically in the summer. And the credit is typically predetermined by the program director. So I'm not that involved in determining the credit for the faculty-led programs. But in the next section of the slide, your students will need to see me at least twice. Probably only twice, but we will probably meet twice, because we learned in LCR that we really can't do pre-approval for language credits unless we want to do the whole process 2 times. Because typically when a student will go abroad, if they have study here or they have some knowledge of the language, when they get to their destination institution, they're going to take some kind of a placement test. So we might have approved a whole list of classes for them for their experience, and then they place either above or below what we thought they would do, and then we have to do the job over again. So They meet with me first before they go. I look at the program. We have a conversation about the process. There's a form that they have to sign. And I keep a copy, and the Education Abroad office requires them to submit a copy. And then they go and have their unique experience in the language, and we're really excited about them doing that. But the credit gets analyzed when they turn their official transcript in to me, when they send it to me, right? I will analyze it, and I will work out the Education Abroad transfer equivalencies based on our guidelines. And I look at their degree audit, and then I have a meeting with them again to ask them where they thought this was going to fit into their degree program. And then I finalize it and send it to Amy and Morgan. So if you know of a student who's going to do education abroad, just mention my name several times, and please ask them to email me. Okay, so I'm going to circle back to the FLI just for a second. As you know, we said previously, this is where the classes are going to take place if it's one of the less commonly taught languages. Normally, if you have a student who wants to be in that, those classes they're gonna follow a 101 in the fall and a 102 in the spring, and a 201 in the fall and a 202 in the spring. Some of them have off sequence offerings, but not always, right? So if you have someone who's interested in it and you know that they are an absolute beginner, you'll want to check and make sure that there's going to be a 101 in the spring, because that's not typical. Okay, so you might want to just keep that in mind when you are advising them. And again, it's downtown. I know I said that before. Okay, and here is the possibly one of the most important slides in the entire presentation. It just, we broke it down because we know it's a lot of information, but we know too that you're going to be looking for the person that is most likely going to be able to answer the question that your student is asking. So you just have your bullet pointed list. Again, I'll say if it's teacher certification, it's me, right? If it's education abroad, it's typically me. But I will also say that, as is indicated on the slide, any and all of the issues above may involve Dr. Berkwitz, since he is our department head. So I think this is the end of the slides. I hope that we have enough time for questions. Maybe we talked too fast.
I'll kick it off with a question. So I know when we are advising, typically first-time new in college students, they oftentimes can express hesitation on taking the placement exam. And sometimes they ask to start at the first level, even if they've had a couple of years of experience in a high school classroom setting, because for whatever reason, they may have some anxiety about taking a college level foreign language. So I know the right thing to do is likely to have them take the placement exam, but for those students that express hesitation, what does that conversation look like with that student from your end?
So the first thing that I would say is, yes, I understand that they have anxiety, but one of the first things to understand about the placement test is, although it is adaptive, so the more right answers they give, the harder the questions will become, there is no speaking on the placement test itself. Because the place where they have the most anxiety initially is probably in, you know, pronouncing things in the language and speaking in the language. And so if it can encourage them to take the placement test, just to know that they don't have to speak. They're not going to be recorded, right? That's the first thing for them to know. The second thing is you want to have a conversation. I would have a conversation with them about putting themselves in the position of someone who hasn't had any previous study, and they are in the same classroom as someone who's taken 3 years of high school language. The novice level learner who finds themselves in that situation is going to think, wow, I don't really know anything, because look, here's this person in this class. I don't know what I should know to be in this class, right? And so it's, we really want to recognize, like Melanie said, we want to recognize what they know how to do already. We have confidence that they know how to do things already, right? And they don't need to be in a 101. That they just don't, because it really is meant for students who have had very little to no prior language study. That's what I would say. Maybe Melanie has something to add.
And I would add definitely all of that. And then also just encouraging them that, well, it's not like you don't want to necessarily advertise it, but if they're that hesitant, we always tell them they don't have to take the course into which they place, but it's a good way for them to see just how much they do know, because they also don't want to spend time and money on a course that they don't need, right? If they actually are stronger than they think, then they should be in that 1 level up or 2 levels up, for the purposes of, fitting into where they belong and not being with a student who knows nothing when they know quite a bit. But then also from a time and a money savings standpoint, there's no reason for them to take that first level course if that's not the level that's for them. That being said, if they really are uncomfortable, they take the placement test, they place into a 2nd or 3rd semester course, but they're still very uncomfortable, then we can talk with them and find out where should they be based on those levels of anxiety and comfort. But we want to encourage them to go as high as they should, just for themselves, for their own sake, and for the sake of the classmates.
Right. And I would also follow up with that. Like, I'll give you an example. If they take dual credit in high school and they already have transcripted on they already have Spanish 101 or French 101 on their transcript, they can't repeat the 101. It's not, they can't accumulate 6 credit hours repeating that class again, right? The 101 through 202 levels are not repeatable. So they would be working then from, any other situation where you repeat a class, it's, the repeat policy would apply. So it's really, it might make them feel better initially, but then later, like Melanie said, they're taking a class, they're repeating a class that they didn't necessarily need to repeat. But we don't force them out. If they're really super anxious, we don't force them to change. Unless they're a native speaker. I've done that a couple of times.
Okay, you're welcome to ask a question or type a question for the chat feature. I did want to point out that there was a statement on the chat that said the Seal of Biliteracy has now been adopted by all 50 states. So that's something cool. Another question.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yep, Judith.
Thanks. Yeah, Judith Martin. I also am from the language department. I have a question for Tonia, for Dr. Tinsley. So I think this is new to me that you will see all the transfer transcripts. So does that mean that a student, I thought that their official transcript was went first to study away or education abroad, but however it officially comes through, are students encouraged to, as soon as they have a copy of their transcript, to meet with you about how they would transfer their courses?
So they get the form with the process on it before they leave. And I have a conversation with them before they leave. And then they email me when they get back, and I say, do you have your transcript? Do you have a copy of your official transcript? Because I will need that. and then they email it to me. And I set up an appointment with them after I've had a chance to look at it and their degree audit.
Okay, so they do have to officially receive that transcript that they can send to you electronically.
Or I've had somebody bring me a paper transcript. I don't mind if it's.
Oh,
paper,
okay.
but-
So if they have whatever they got, if they got something in their hands at the university, they can go ahead and start working with you on that.
Mhm.
Okay, because I think in the past they came to me about the German ones. But I realize you know some German and our previous department head didn't. So, okay, thanks for the clarification on that. I think that has changed.
So I appreciate the contacts listed here. What about certificates? Is there one person to contact for certificates, or are they divided up per certificate?
So that's a good question. I would think that they would go to the section coordinators or their faculty advisor to talk about the certificates to start with. Like I'm the French section coordinator, so if somebody is going to declare an undergraduate certificate, then I would be the person that they would be put in touch with.
They can always reach out to the LCR at missouristate.edu.
Yeah.
Just the general department address, and then those will get kind of distributed among the faculty who are either most open at the time or specific to the certificate that the student might be interested in.
Mhm.
It's probably easiest for advising students to contact just the general department email in those cases. Just we'll be able to assign them to the right person.
I didn't realize I was still screen sharing. Sorry, I can stop that.
Okay, and we have a question in the chat. Should incoming transfer students interested in a language major continue to be referred to Dr. Tinsley? So Dr. Tinsley, are you the transfer advisor? Yes.
Yes, I am. I am the transfer advisor because I'm the one who does the AA, the review of the AA and the AAT. Well, I know it's not called that anymore, but all of the 2+2 agreements, I'm the person that reviews those. So typically I'm the transfer advisor. Yeah, I'm listed.
Okay, thank you. And thanks, Campbell, for the question. There's a question about the scholarship, April scholarship deadline.
So yeah, so those are a little it might be a little challenging for an incoming student to qualify for one of the departmental awards because each one of them has eligibility requirements for a certain number of credits in the language, either in progress or already completed. So it would depend on each individual student and whether or not, for example, they had taken a class at the FLI, you know, or they did dual credit in the Seal of Biliteracy. Those are a little different because they, like the dual credit one requires that the dual credit be taken through Missouri State. We don't, if the person took dual credit through another institution, that's wonderful, but it doesn't qualify them for the eligibility for the financial award. So it would depend on it would depend on the individual circumstances, but typically it might be challenging for new students to meet the credit hour requirements that are associated with each one of the awards. But they're all posted on the webpage. Thank you, Jeff, for putting the link in there. All of the eligibility requirements are posted. So they can go to that webpage and see if they would qualify.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, well, again, our next advisor forum will be on Monday, October 21st. We actually have 2 advisor forums that week. I already mentioned the first one. The second one will be our first seated academic advisor forum for the fall semester, and it will be managing concerning student behavior. That one will be in PSU 313 on Tuesday, October 22nd. Again, I want to thank everyone today for joining us for the advisor forum. A special shout out to Steve, Tonia, and Melanie for presenting this information. And like I said, it will be posted on the Most State Advising YouTube channel within 1 to 2 weeks. And I think I see
Oh, Morgan, you're so sweet. I love working with you guys too. Listen, I have I have one more thing to say. If you have a student that comes to you who's interested in languages or who has experience in languages, please get them in a language class as soon as they get here, because there's a reason that learning another language helps stave off cognitive decline, but your brain will get rid of what it doesn't use. So if they sit out, that's the worst thing they can do, is sit out. We want to see them. We want to see them.
Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I hope to see you all again on Monday, October 21st via Zoom. Thank you.